Roger, go for deploy.
So, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Thanks for having me back, boys. It's good to be here.
Tell us about, you were just, before we started recording, you were talking about psychology, studying psychology. Where'd that all come about?
It started it last year. I applied in... I just thought about applying and then did it one day just on a whim, as is 90% of the things that I do. And then once I actually got accepted into one of the, I sort of applied for a bunch of different courses, and I sort of figured if I got accepted into one of the decent ones, then I was probably should go. Mm-hmm. So I got into the full, the Bachelor of Psychology with Honours, which is at Macquarie University. And I thought, that's a pretty decent degree. So I'll go and do it. And I did it. And it's really hard being back at uni at 28 years old, because you're kind of this weird anomaly where you've got all these 18, 19-year-olds that have just had their gap year and that. And you've got all these 56-year-olds that are going through a midlife crisis. As my beautiful mother just finished her degree at 60 years old.
Oh, that's
great.
Shit.
Yeah, she just finished midwifery.
Really?
So there's that camp, and then there's the kid camp, and then there's the way you
can't.
You weird
Can't
fuck.
half a pedophile, half like a spring chicken.
Yeah, exactly right. I can kind
Dr.
of...
Khan, sorry, Dr. Khan.
Yeah, Dr. Khan kind of float with both crowds and just see which one accepts me.
Yeah,
no, it was
cool.
good. It's been cool. Like we were talking about as well, some of it's really dry and some of it's not kind of, I guess, as applicable to what I want to do with it. But then there's been other things that have come across during it that I've been like, fuck, that was something I didn't even think about when I thought I was going to be studying psychology. And it's really, really cool. Things like learning, motivation, all that sort of stuff as well is really interesting and really different to necessarily just, me walking in and going, all right, sweet, I'm just going to learn about everyone that's fucked up in the head now. And,
So what was the reason then? What got you at 28? Why you all of a sudden studying psychology? Where did it come about?
I think obviously we talked about this last time, I've got a massive interest in mental health and stuff like that as well, and just going on my own mental health journey. And I just thought that for me, it just, I'm not going to be an athlete forever. I'm not going to be posting Instagram photos for a bunch of cash forever. And it's something solid that I can fall back on, that I'm super passionate about. And ultimately, we go through life and we figure out what makes us tick. We figure out what we enjoy. And I thoroughly enjoy working with people and helping people. And I found that, through just little things like talking openly about my own mental health journey and stuff like that, the number of people that then reached out and were like, oh man, I relate to this. So, I got hundreds and hundreds of messages and still do. Even last night I was chatting to a bloke just through my limited scope of knowledge. And I just thought it'd be so nice to have a means of being able to actually help these people with some sort of scientific backing, rather than me just going, well, this is what I do. But go get professional help, please. And I guess that was the initial reasoning behind it. I really enjoyed it. And it's opened up my eyes to what goes into it. And it's been super cool. The other really cool thing about it is, I studied, when I did my last degree, I did a philosophy subject as an elective. And so going back this time, I chose a philosophy subject that was very similar to the first one that I did. And so the degree that I'm transferring to, hopefully, is you choose an arts or a science stream. And with the arts stream, you can choose a second major. And philosophy is just blown my mind. It's the coolest thing I've ever come across. Fuck, there was a period when I was studying it at the start of the year that I was going, man, this is even cooler than psychology. But so it's sick. And it gives me just something to do that's just on my own. There's no no one else involved in me being at uni, and it's just kind of, I don't have business partners, I don't have other coaches, athletes, fans, anything like that. It's just me going to uni, studying away, doing my thing.
And do you feel it's just super personally therapeutic as well?
Yeah,
just having 100%. That, some of the best
skills you'll never fucking let go of.
No, 100%.
Priceless skills.
Yeah. Exactly right. It's things that, now... Yeah, I just know things that I've never learnt before. And it's funny, you read books on psychology, you read books on self-help, but they're all written for the neophyte, the person that doesn't know what's going on there. Whereas you're actually no, you're going to now have to learn the theory behind this. And it's kind of then cool to to put that sort of those glasses on. And the other thing is, it's a science degree. By and large, we studied in-depth research design and analysis, and it starts to make you think there's so much bullshit out there. And it's so interesting to hear kind of, I guess, academics' takes on, all these things, these, hot topics that are out there. And particularly when it comes to things like self-help and, that kind of pseudo-psychology or folk psychology, and all these people quote that studies show X, Y, Z. And it kind of opens your eyes to the amount of bullshit that's out there. And I don't know, maybe a little bit skeptical of a lot of different things, but yeah, it's just cool. Like you're right, it's therapeutic. It's great because you learn shit, and yeah, like it's just.
So you're talking about like the clinical approach to psychology there, like with a lot of the bullshit. So like what's some of the specific things, or because I feel the exact same, man. Like I feel that like there's a lot of stuff that you read in a book and you're like, what the fuck, like that's not really. I don't know.
Like there was a really interesting lecture that we did when we were talking about like motivation psychology, and our lecturer, the first semester that I was there, like he was pretty cool, but he was this really dry kind of sarcastic dude, and we were talking about it, and I think like he's talked about like different sort of drives for motivation, like biological, like physical, and then psychological as well. And he was talking about how like a lot of these like motivational speakers and self-help gurus, that they'll stimulate like all these biological drives that get you real fired up and get you firing off, thinking that you're motivated, but they don't actually give you anything. Like it's just all fluff.
Yeah,
and
it's all trick. It's kind of like being a magician.
Seriously,
it's like tricking people into. It's NLP. Like it's like when Tony Robbins up on stage, give me a yes if you agree, and everyone's like.
That was the exact guy that he spoke about. He's like,
buy in,
he said that Tony Robbins was just full of shit. And I was like, fuck, this is a guy that people go and say changes their lives and stuff.
I don't think he'd be totally full of shit though. Like I still think people could probably take a bit out of it, but like there's 100% like science behind getting people to think they're motivated on the day, like building them up, getting them pumped, and then. But
that still helps, even though it's bullshit. Like
a little bit of placebo might still help, and
well, and like if you get fired up from doing that, and then you immediately go out and make some drastic changes in your lives, then full power to you. That's great. But I think he was talking about, I guess, like the science behind what they're teaching is limited. But I mean, look, I can honestly say I've never once watched Tony Robbins or like anything like that. But I kind of hate all that just like empowerment book like stuff. Like that's never really resonated with me. I'm like, give me like, tell me to be feel empowered, but give me tools to fucking feel empowered. 100%. Give me something practical to do.
That's the thing I always thought with the Power of Now. Like the Power of Now. Have you read the Power of Now?
I've read the other one, that A New World, or whatever it is. I haven't read the Power of Now.
Yeah, and
I'm actually rereading the Power of Now.
Yeah, and people love it, and I recommend it to people sometimes. Like people ask me a bit about like how do you start your journey in mindfulness? Well, I want to start meditating. And I always give them the Power of Now and Dan Harris. And the Power of Now, so many people get heaps out of the Power of Now, but I don't feel like I did because it didn't give me like, go do this.
Yeah, Dan Harris is great.
Dan Harris, it was like, I'm just a regular bloke. Yeah. This is what I did. These are the actual steps. This is the shit I felt was bullshit. And I was like, right, well, I feel like it's an actionable thing to a degree,
100%.
And that's not, for me, that's what worked. Doesn't work for everyone. Like, so many people, the Power of Now motivates them, It's like, fuck that. But I didn't get as much, But I think having that actionable part in it is rad,
I mean, I just finished reading, that The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, which was great, and then Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, which is also brilliant. Recently. And I'm sort of like kind of left thinking about, like, there was one passage in one of them, I can't remember which of it was, and I'm midway through this other one called Selfie, which is brilliant as well. I can give you I don't know if you've heard of it, but I'll give you the author after. It's really, really interesting. And I think like I find... like I've just got back from a trip through like Scandinavia and stuff, and I was doing these workshops there. And in the workshops, I was talking about mindset and goal setting and motivation. And I kind of think like for me, and I've always taken this approach, you can motivate the hell out of someone, but there has to be something that switches inside of them. And you literally like, you can, and I say this because I've got people that I know, like a dude that I'm friends with, and he's just unmotivatable. Like you can't offer him reward, you can't punish him, you can't praise him, you can't really, like nothing motivates him. And it made me realize that you can, it's the ultimate, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And that to me, like trying to deal with this, like this mate of mine, and it's like you have to, like motivation to me, like what is motivation? It's fucking bullshit. Like it's nothing, it's a word. Like what is, it's a non-quantifiable substance that you can get from watching Tony Robbins. You can think you have motivation, but what the hell is motivation? Like what? Like it's nothing. You need a
habitual change, definitely.
Only you can come up with that habitual change. So to pay thousands of dollars to see a motivational speaker, to me, this seems fucking stupid. Because what do you actually get out of that except feeling motivated? Like if you feel motivated, like what is that? What is that feeling of like when you feel motivated? I mean, fuck. Like if you don't do anything, it means nothing.
Yeah, and it's like you really you have to have your oh, that's lovely. Mum's on the phone. This is what motivation is, Mum. No, but you have to have that you have to have your why. Like the Find Your Why by fucking
Simon Sinek.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good book.
Yeah.
And like it was the motivation's good. Like you watch like an inspirational YouTube video about someone getting fit. I'm like, I'm going to fucking change my life. But it's like if you just think of that and you go, oh, well, I'm going to get really fit because, you know, that's going to get all the chicks for me and like that, you know, it's very extrinsic and it just doesn't lead to anything.
Yeah, and I think don't get me wrong, I'm a huge believer. I love that start with why. Like I love the idea of you've got to have something that's driving you to do that, but to seek some form of external motivation. I think that would be a better way of putting it. To seek some form of external motivation.
Motivation you can buy off the shelf to a degree.
Yeah, to push you towards that why. I think that's where it's kind of like there's got to be a better way. And I think that's where, like for me, it's having a why. But for me, the ultimate, and this is like where my fascination lies at the moment. I was actually up till like 2 o'clock in the morning just reading and writing my thoughts on just identity because I think that and self-awareness is such a lost art and it's something that people don't have. If you're not self-aware, then how the hell can you motivate yourself to do anything? And if you're always looking for something else to motivate you, but you don't have that self-awareness to actually figure out why the fuck you want something, well, like all the external motivation in the world is never going to get you anywhere.
It's funny you said self-awareness. I'm like so passionate about this thing at the moment, self-awareness, right? Because like my housemate and I, we were having a chat about this, and because he wanted to listen to the show, so I can just rag the fuck out of him. He's a real cunt. He's all right. But anything I say right now, I could easily say to him because we've spoken about this. But like self-awareness is, it's kind of this thing that for people that aren't into this shit, harder to find this day and age because there's just so much external clutter and it's just so easy to distract yourself that like if you the best way to get to know yourself is to spend time with yourself and that's just become increasingly more difficult to the undisciplined to do. But if you don't spend time with yourself, then you're not going to be exactly what you said, Khan. Like you're not going to be able to figure out where you want to go in life, what makes you happy, and then from there, mold a life that just continues to make you happy every time. You know?
Yeah, and when you say that people don't spend time with themselves, it's also like I think one of the biggest problems, and it's funny, it's a double-edged sword. Like I love social media. I make a full-time living off social media. It's a great vessel for being able to speak to people en masse about great things, and there are some people that use it for incredible good. But it's also like this is now how people define themselves. You've got a generation, like that young generation that's coming through now is just, there's going to be rife with things like depression and anxiety because you've got all these kids that don't know any other world besides social media. We grew up in a time where social media didn't exist. So we actually
had 25-year head start of normal life.
Exactly right.
Old life.
Yeah. But then, and the problem is like these kids, they're going to grow up and they're going to see them, even now, like adults, we're switched into it. Like we look at social media and we see a highlight reel of all the people around us, and all of a sudden all we're doing then is we're assuming that that's what we need
100%.
to be because we're seeing that, which is everyone knows that that's an issue. But I think the double-edged sword to that is that we also now, these idealistic lives are also accessible, but all of our failures now are easily accessible for the rest of the world as well. So instead of just now having these unrealistic things that we think we need to be striving for, that we see perpetuated by people on social media, we're also fucking terrified that if we strive for them, we'll fail, and those failures will then be on display for all these people out in the world to see, and we'll be persecuted. It's insane how willing people are to jump down someone's throat if they fuck up on social media versus congratulate them when they do the right thing.
Did you hear about August Ames?
Nah.
So August Ames was not that I know, but she was, I mean I don't know, but she was really into anal and all that. I mean I don't like
August Ames. I'll just get that in the show notes possibly.
We'll chuck her stuff up on there.
We'll put a clip in the show notes.
We'll put a clip in there.
Yeah, we'll embed 10 video.
We'll embed words from
secretly
our sponsors.
Pornhub is coming to you.
I'll embed it into my iPhone and I'll go over it before we put it in the show notes. I'll just make sure I double check across the
you do it Fight Club style and just quickly flash little bits of her up on there.
Yeah, but she committed suicide, by the way, just to take it.
Oh, Jesus Christ. That was a really terrible segue into that. You should have stopped us so quickly then.
Let's cut all this shit. Let's just start the podcast again, shall we? He slipped in.
No,
she committed suicide, by the way.
No, I didn't. No.
Okay.
Man. I feel like a horrible person.
We weren't saying anything about August Ames specifically, just to save our asses here. She committed suicide. just to bring it down a notch. But
That's insane.
Yeah, fuck, this has ruined it. But she committed suicide because she was asked to do a video with a gay porn star that I think was obviously going to jump down the heterosexual scene.
Yeah.
And she
It
said
would be
no.
hard to do it soon.
Yeah,
Just sitting there having a coffee or something.
yeah, exactly. Oh, you got a dick. But she said no because she didn't want to increase the likelihood of her getting AIDS.
Yeah.
Which is like from a purely like non trying to. Oh, I don't even know the word I'm looking for. But apparently, gay guys have an increased rate of getting AIDS or HIV.
Do you think that in the porn industry they'd have to be getting tested?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they test it all the
assume,
time.
but I just think it's more likely, for example.
It makes
I'm not like trying to say anything stereotypical.
No,
yeah,
we get
yeah.
it, we get it.
Yeah. Anyway, she copped so much backlash. You're a homophobe, you're this and that, and she clearly would have had some mental health issues already. But she committed suicide, and that's just like going off the thing of how quickly people are to judge.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, it's so easy to hide behind your phone. Just go,
It's an incredible book. I don't know if you guys have read it. Is So You've Been Publicly Shamed by Mark Ronson. And he also did The Psychopath Test, which is another great book.
Yeah,
and he's
yeah.
a brilliant author just in general. But he goes down a whole heap of paths. Like he talks about, that woman that she sent a tweet about going to Africa, and I think like weird that this is also another age. So she sent a tweet going to Africa or something like that, like with words to the effect of, I probably won't, I hope I don't get AIDS or something along those lines. Like a stupid thing said in like a stupid
Throwaway line.
terrible
Dumb,
context.
but not
She had
fucking
like
horrible.
200 or something followers on her Twitter. So not thinking that it's going to go out to the masses. It got picked up by someone else that's like this disgusting human being. By the time she got off the plane, like, it had just completely blown up. People were she still says, she's like in the book, she's talking about she still gets death threats and stuff, can't get a job, she got fired, she lost everything for this one like little mistake just because, I mean, I guess, and I mean, obviously terrible, don't make racist jokes in general, or don't make racist jokes on a fucking public forum like that anyway.
It's probably silly more than terrible. Like dumb.
Yeah, it's just dumb. It's very dumb.
Dumb. Like, and but her whole life was just turned upside down. And there's all these different stories with different people that he speaks to that's the exact situation. They've been publicly shamed through the internet. And I don't know, like I look for, it's interesting. I always, my missus hates it because I'll just get home and I'll sit on the computer, and if there's a contentious article or something, she's like, and then she'll just see me starting to get fired up. She like sees me reading comments, and it's just like people just want to disagree with each other. People don't want to support each other. It's bizarre. I don't get where this collective kind of psychology of everyone's like, now we're all against each other.
I know. We just had Simon Ho sitting in your seat half an hour ago, evolutionary biologist. I think it was when you ducked out to the toilet after the show. He said, we talked about how this is on YouTube now, whatever, and we've just started YouTube, but he goes, how is it with the comments, like what? Because
he was hating it.
Yeah, no, because he was like, I don't know some of those questions, like I wasn't sure with my answers, and whatever. Do you get like heaps of hate in the comments and heaps of And I was like, no, bro, it's all good. Like we're minimal fucking But you look at Joe Rogan, for example. Joe Rogan has someone on, and then there's 1,000 comments going, that guy's a fucking cocksucker. Yeah. That's bullshit. What a fuckhead. Like, and Simon, like he's sitting here in your shoes, and he left the show. He's like nervous about getting hate and vitriol for his theories on evolutionary biology. You know what I mean? Like that's the point. Yeah. That's the point that it's at.
And then that's it's terrible. Like, I mean, by and large, I'm very lucky. Like the biggest social channel that I use is my Instagram, and for the most part, it's a pretty supportive place. Like the comment, I don't typically get very many hateful comments and stuff like that. It's different when I post to Facebook. I have a fraction of the followers on Facebook that I do on Instagram, but it's almost guaranteed, like particularly if I post something that gets a little bit of traction, that there will be a shit ton more negative comments there. And I've just started to dip the toes into YouTube as well, and I've heard it's the same, that YouTube's like the people just go to YouTube to just fucking vent their rage against the world.
Feel better about themselves.
Yeah, because it's not necessarily linked to their like personal accounts and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, this is where I think though that like it's important to have that self-awareness we were talking about though, because it's like if you I feel for me, at the most part where I'm in my life, I feel like there's a lot of things wrong with me, but I feel like I'm a pretty self-aware dude. So if I say something like, even just something like dropping the C-bomb on the show, or if I say something that's stupid or in poor taste, I can back it up by just me genuinely being an idiot. But like the one thing that I've been conflicting about having the mind mate, like the mental health thing as well, is that like, I wonder if I would be, because I try to be as authentic as I can be, as we all do. But I just wondered sometimes, like, will that more or less like trigger someone that I could be helping in the future, or like would it like cause some sort of controversy?
I think, and this is to your point before, like you're talking about how people hide from their faults and their failures and whatever, and it's kind of what you're talking about, like. But it's funny, we always think, like, you're a little bit worried about that, to your point that you just made, and people hide all that shit from their social media because they want to have this perfect life. But it's actually counterintuitive because they're the people that you gravitate towards.
Yeah.
You gravitate towards to people that are real, and you can see through that shit.
Yeah.
But it's just not the by and large. It's everyone is, let's get this photo fucking perfect, all positivity. When you see someone with, like, a mad following like yourself, I've seen... You know, you talk about mental health and a shit day and this and that, training's gone bad, whatever. That's a real person, you know. But you're like part of the minor of the minority, and everyone's got that all positive outlook. But people actually gravitate towards real and people they can connect with. You know?
The way
it's
that way that I look at it as well is like when we're talking about that motivational speakers, like, you know, it's fluff. Like the masses will still be drawn to something that motivates them, even on a superficial level. So if someone's there going, you know, positive this, positive that. And I say it all the time. There's people I know that I'm like, fuck, man, like you are not in a good headspace. You are not in a good way right now. And you're there posting like, fuck yeah, just feeling so empowered and positive. I'm like, don't do that. Like, one, you're doing yourself a disservice. You're putting yourself further in the rabbit hole by basically trying to perpetuate, you know, it's that thing. They're trying to live up to that idealistic image that everyone needs to have that positive outlook. At the same time, they're too afraid of that vulnerability and showing that they're maybe failing to reach that. And it's a vicious cycle because as they start to push more and more that they're in a positive headspace or that they're doing great things, they start to slip further and further down into that kind of depressed state where they're like, fuck, I'm getting further and further away from this idealistic image that I'm putting up. But people will still gravitate to that to an extent. But I think it's just like that, like the masses with motivational speaking and stuff like that. You can kind of see through it. You can kind of pick out now, oh, this is something with a bit of substance, which actually has this is what you've got to do. Don't just tell me, you've got to be empowered and you're amazing and you've got the power to change the world, because it's fucking bullshit on a superficial level. I can't just walk out of this door now and change the world. There's going to have to be steps that go into place to get there. And so... yeah, like I think that's where the people on social media and stuff that do actually do a good job with it are the ones that are genuinely authentic. And, you know, like you follow people on social media because you expect to know, well, this is the way I see it, right? And this comes from when I was studying communications, learning like social media was just starting to be a thing. And one of the biggest things that everyone was saying at that point in time that it was kind of talking about how it was going to take off was like, if you want to build a brand through social media, you've got to be authentic and it's got to be really you, because otherwise, like, you know, people will just see through it. And it's funny, like, because I think I've gone sort of full circle with it all now where I can sit back and go, you know, I'm now being authentically me. But I definitely went from, I guess, through phases. And this is where, like, I think that I've come back to this fascination with identity, where I was kind of trying to figure out if I could conjure up my own identity through social media, as that was the place that I had the vastest sort of amount of feedback instantly available to me. And then, like, I dabbled around in all sorts of different things. And I think finding an identity and finding a sense of self that I was okay and comfortable with has been such a journey for me that's now where my fascination lies. And being able to identify the dangers that exist for young people now trying to come up with solid identities themselves and seeing it firsthand in like friends of friends, people like friends, family and stuff like that, you know. It's just so hard nowadays for young people to find that identity. And when you have so much fucking shit out there,
100%.
so many just people that probably aren't even shit people, you know, like that are probably just decent, normal people in day-to-day life, but just for whatever reason, they get on the internet and just feel the need to tear other people apart. Like, man, I don't know. It's bizarre. Like, I just think that we're facing an identity crisis, like a global identity crisis. And unless someone fucking... well, not someone, but unless like there's a way that something's got to change.
It's funny that you mentioned like that you mentioned man's search for meaning. So I listened to that when I was riding in Vietnam, riding through Vietnam, and basically man's search for meaning is basically Viktor Frankl in a concentration camp and his thoughts and how he kept positive, how other people kept positive. You know, he's a psychologist himself. Anyway, his whole thing was basically trying to find the meaning of life to a degree. Like, what is it that keeps people alive? What are people alive for? And the title of the book gives it away. Man's Search for Meaning. Yeah. Like how he was able to fucking stay positive, how he was able to make it through, how other people weren't in the concentration camps, because concentration camps, it was you're in the physical same state as somebody else. The thing that keeps you alive is your mental state. Are you ready to check out? Sure. Have you got something to fight for? Are you strong-willed enough or whatever? And it's all around fucking meaning and purpose and why. You know what I mean? And that's why, like, to throw my hat in the ring just briefly, like with Adventure Fit for me, for the longest time at the start, it was so fucking hard and I wasn't enjoying it at all. It was really, my mental health was deteriorating and I was just trying to make money through this business. I was trying to make a, like, I had nice intentions and it was a cool life, so I was helping people, but until I reframed it and figured out, okay, this makes people happy as fuck, this is that now is my meaning, my why, you know? And until I reframed it to be that, and that was what dragged me through shit times, like I was struggling like a motherfucker to stay happy, stay motivated, stay this and that. And then, but it was all just a reframing of the way that I thought about things. I was like, I'll just picture people that I'm helping. I'm like, right, I'm having a shit time, this isn't working, we're nearly broke, we're nearly bankrupt, whatever. And then I was thinking, right, okay, I need to keep this alive because it's a really positive impact, you know? That's my why. And it really fucking helped me. And I think, like you say, like, people just want now to be followed. They want to be followed. They want to be...
Yeah,
maybe they all...
I just think people just want. Like, I think want in general. People just want. There's no content anymore. There's this person has, so I want. This person can do, so I want to do. This person's been, so I've got to go. It's never... Fuck yeah, like... What do I get value out of? And it's just a constant drive of want. And it's drilled into us from the time that we're kids. I think I posted about this just the other day, that our whole life we're conditioned that we should be striving for something, that we should be striving for some form of success.
The most stuff.
Yeah, like, but it doesn't even, I don't even think it has to be stuff. Like, it's even in some self-help books, it's like, you should be striving to be happier. Yeah. You should be striving to be more authentic. Like, there's always a goal that requires you to be more than you currently are. Yeah. And I think that, yes, there are times that we need to be able to do that. There are times and there are ways that we need to be able to strive to be better in all different aspects. But I think the danger comes when we also don't get taught the tools to be able to appreciate who we are, where we are, what we have. And like mindfulness, for instance, is a huge thing that I've really come full circle on. I used to think that meditation meant trying to sit there and clear my mind, and someone with fucking ADHD and anxiety can't really clear their mind at the drop of a pin. In fact, if you try to do that, it will actually probably make you more anxious and more restless. So for me, I hated meditation. And then in my uni break earlier this year, because I do have ADD and I can't just fucking not do anything, I decided to do an online course in mindfulness practitioner's course, purely because I thought that would then help if I went into clinical psychology later in life. And it was just something to do. And I was just blown away by how different mindfulness practices were to what I'd envisioned them being, and how pivotal that shit. I mean, that shit needs to be taught at school.
It does, yeah.
Kids need to have people telling them this is how you actually appreciate, like, even just simple things like, you know, you look at mindful eating, you get a fucking brownie there, you can sit there and just woof that brownie down without even thinking about it, and then you're going to want more food straight away. If you sit there, you actually think about how fucking good does this brownie taste? What's the texture like? How does it, like, does it smell? How does it feel? Like, you know, how long does the taste stay in your mouth?
5 extra times.
Fucking
enjoy
oath.
Choose meditation.
You're going to actually enjoy that brownie and not then instantly be like, fuck, I want another brownie. You know, like, it's simple shit like that people just aren't learning and are being so conditioned to be wanting more than what they already have. And, you know, it's hard, you know, like, I have a platform in which I try to inspire and motivate people to do different things. But for that inspiration, I think it's also, I find it really important, particularly now with the headspace that I'm in and the place I'm in life, to also try and encourage people to sometimes just stop and smell the roses. And it's so interesting.
I think you actually have it harder in a sense on that, though, because they look at you and they go, oh, great rig, good looking dude, CrossFit Games athlete. Like, you've got it easy, man. Like, what do you know about anxiety and ADHD? And so, like, how do you find... Number one, has anyone come to you and sort of said that stuff? And, like, and two, how do you kind of combat that sort of thing?
Do you know, like, to be honest, not to my face. I'm sure people probably say it behind your back, but you can only kind of think. I think, like, I guess I don't know, like if people do think that, then it says more about, I think it's a really sad thing to
It's definitely
to look
a
at
reflection
someone and
on them,
say, like,
for sure.
100%. But at the same time, like, like I get that they probably think that it's easy enough for me to speak out because I do have that, and it's not the same for everyone else. But at the same time, like, I don't know, I guess to them I would say speak to anyone that knows me well enough that can sit down and go, I can tell you right now he doesn't have it easy with that sort of shit. Like, speak to my missus, who then has to kind of like sit with me if I can't sleep until 4 a.m. in the morning because I can't stop twitching and fucking, what do I get? Or I have like a massive anxiety attack and I can't leave the house. There's shit that I've done with it, and maybe one day I'll speak more, like, you know what? If someone actually said that to me, I would probably be quite happy to tell them some of the shit that I've had to go through with my anxiety, my ADHD. Like, even, I think last time I spoke to you guys on the show, like for 2 years, I was misdiagnosed with bipolar and being medicated for bipolar disorder. The medication for that's fucking horrible, and it wasn't doing anything to help my ADHD, anxiety, and the depressive episodes that I was having. And like, there's been this whole journey that I've had to go on behind the scenes. And, social media is a highlight reel. I share enough so that I think that people can relate and take some value from it and that I can give to people. But, there's a whole heap of, the unsexy side, if you will, of all the shit that you have to go through. And for people that think that just because someone has a certain social status, it's any easier. I mean, look at Robin Williams. Guy was absolutely loved and revered, and he still did not enjoy living enough to keep on going.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's just miseducation. It's just the fact that nobody understands, because people, and that's in my head, that's the person I was thinking of, Robin Williams. But you always see when a celebrity, Owen Wilson, says he has depression. I remember my mates, Owen Wilson got depression. What the fuck's that guy got to be depressed about? Hollywood chicks, Hollywood film stars, all the money in the world. But people we prioritise things incorrectly. Like, we prioritise things and money and success, like your social stature, which that doesn't have any that doesn't have any bearing on your happiness whatsoever or your contentment. You know what I mean? But everything that we learn in school, everything that we fucking put our minds to is all directed in the wrong way. Because what you say, like, about why aren't we taught mindfulness in schools? Like, my best man at his wedding, he's just going through a divorce.
Yeah.
We had beers last Saturday night, and he's like, mate, I just started talking to a psychologist, and he's fucking telling me this, that, and the other, all these like little bits and pieces. I'm like, mate, how about this? Like, when I go through like a really bad period of anxiety, I actually do this. I read this thing to myself, or I think in this particular way, and like little skills that I've learned that I'm like bro science passing on to him, but he'll learn with his own journey and his own stuff that'll work for him. But that's the shit that, like, he's 32 years old. Like, he's been through fucking 32 years of putting up with shit that he could have probably got around if he had been educated about first your mind, your health, because that's got a lot to do with your mind. And then I think fucking the fact that we don't understand money. No one understands money is ridiculous as well.
Money, happiness,
like, that's so important. And then we learn fucking maths, and we learn religion, and we learn all this shit that is nowhere near as important. Unless you want to, you want to do maths, go and study it at the end of your, year 11 and 12, whatever, go on and do maths in fucking university.
And it's a system that existed prior to so much of the technology that we have. Like, literally, we have the answers to 99% of the general knowledge-based questions that we want in the palms of our, pardon me, at least the Western world does, right? What we don't have is the tools to overcome a massive breakup, is the tools to overcome if you find yourself completely broke, is the tools to overcome, like entrepreneurial skills and stuff like that. Like, there's so many things now that should have more. Am I yelling really loud because I have headphones on? It's okay. I just kind of only realised that. I'm just getting flat.
It's all good. It's all good.
I was just wondering if I was just screaming at people. Sorry, off topic, tangent. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, like, we're not taught the shit that's going to actually help us. We're not taught how to navigate through bullshit versus, authenticity. We're not taught all these things that kind of, and look, this isn't a bashing on the school system. I'm not one of those kind of, their schools are broken, get the kids, Like, that's so far out of my realm of understanding to even really comment on. But I just think that there are things and there are skills that are so missing from young people's lives that's why I think we're facing such a global epidemic of mental health issues, like identity crisis and all like this perpetual discontent, and that kind of is with the young kids of today. And it's a discontent and it's an entitlement. And you see it, like, I work with like young people. I've got young people around me a lot, and you just see like these kids are just never happy. They're just never content with what they've got. They always want more. Nothing's ever their fault. They feel that they're entitled to the world, but they're too afraid to go and get it because then they also don't want to ever be at fault forever fucking up and being a failure. Like it's a dangerous mixture. I mean, I don't have the answer to how to fix that, unfortunately.
I reckon like a really interesting take on it was I can't remember who the fuck said it, but they were talking about like the generational differences, and our grandparents were suffered through the depression and all that sort of stuff, and then they brought up our parents, just teaching them completely about security. Get a job, settle down, like have
family
kids.
home.
Yeah. And then obviously we grew up with that abundance, and our parents are very secure and happy, and they're for the most part happy, and they're kind of like, hey, life is yours, like take it by the balls, And so we have this like real difference between where we currently are in society and our expectation level being up here, and a lot of that stuff just ties into the fact where it's like, well, we're just not performing, so we should just be bashing ourselves.
Well, it's the same as like we talked about it in developmental psychology, and developmental psychology and stuff as well, and how like different parenting styles and how they've evolved, and that kind of we were raised as well, Like you said, our grandparents' sort of generation, they had nothing. So they had to fight and struggle for everything. So they wanted their kind of parents to kind of appreciate that, but at the same time, give them the world because they didn't have it themselves. And then our parents are kind of like, I know for myself, like, and I love I have beautiful parents, both of them, and I love them both dearly. But my mum was so kind of like, you can do anything you want to do. You're amazing even if you come 17th in that race out of like 20 people, like you could just do no wrong. And I think that also just fuels the fire for a lot of these young kids now, that was just the parenting style of the time, was your participation awards for everyone that took part. There's no winner at the end of the competition. Everyone wins because you just had fun. Which is bullshit, because that's not how life works. Like it's
capitalism.
Teach them to fail, because they will fail in life.
Exactly right. Yeah, like literally, like,
okay.
Or teach them to go, you know what, you came last, you suck at running, you're not going to be a runner.
Yeah.
So stop wasting your time trying to be a runner and thinking, fuck, you know what, I still keep getting these ribbons every time I go running. Like that's one of the big things I sort of, like with the mindset stuff that I do with the guys when I'm doing the camps and stuff overseas, or even with just people that I'm working with, like knowing when to push for something and knowing when to make something that you want to fucking work for it is a hugely, like there's a skill, and there's a whole process that I outline for them to working towards a goal, setting a goal and working towards it, right? I have a whole process that I'll teach these people to do that. But there has to be a point in time where you just like, you have to be okay with going, you know what? Fuck. One, I either suck at this thing, and it's not making me happy because I'm not good at it. And you can't do anything you want to do in life. Like that's not actually true. So I'll stop investing time and energy into that because it's not a positive experience for me, because it's not actually giving me any value. It's making me really like anxious and depressed and upset. And then move on from that, like being able to let go of things, being able to let go of when you're wrong, when you're not good at something, when you don't want to do something, or like, you say that start with why. And what I sort of say to people is like, if you don't have self-awareness, if you can't figure out why the fuck you want something, then when you start working towards it, it's going to be wishy-washy. You're going to be like, make excuses and all this sort of stuff, and you're not going to get towards it. And then you're going to get frustrated with yourself because you just set this goal but you didn't get it. But maybe you set a goal that, there's all these different things. You've got to be smart, measurable, fucking whatever
Smart
it is,
goal.
specific,
measurable, attainable.
But where does it say that within that it also has to be that you actually fucking have to do it? Like you have to kind of want to fucking do it.
That's the biggest thing, man.
Because we're not self-aware, we don't fucking know.
Yeah, like you can set like a super accurate goal. Like I'm gonna like lose 10 kilos by the 48th of January.
Yep.
48th of January. Fuck, I don't know.
Jesus.
That's really unrealistic, bro.
I'm going to stop you there. I don't know if that's a smart goal.
He's like, well,
in the older days, it would have been you can do anything that you want to do. 48th of
We'll
January.
add 18 days to January for you, son, because we'll do it for you because we love
I think
you.
you could do it.
Because you're entitled to that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're special. You're different. You can have 48 days.
No, but like you're right. You've just got to. If you don't want it, like I mean, I was dedicated my whole life to make AFL.
Yeah.
I fucking frothed it.
Yeah.
Like I thought I loved it to bits.
Yeah.
And then going through like retrospect and thinking of coming into this sort of person I am now, I wanted it because it was what society thought was amazing. This is what society prized. Like, sweet, then I'd be famous, I'd have tons of money, I'd be able to bang tons of hot chicks all the time. And it's just like,
three
they're
okay things
pretty good.
to have.
I mean, look.
Yeah. I mean, I still want it.
To any
actually want
AFL
to be an
players out there
AFL
that are
player.
doing that right now, like you guys are doing a great thing.
Yeah, we don't begrudge the guys with all the money getting all the pussy.
Yeah.
Might be a career change potentially. CrossFit, you don't get any of those things.
Yeah, we don't get much. Yeah, podcasting's not like that. Yeah, but like I don't know. It just didn't make me. I didn't know that it didn't make me truly internally happy at the time. And I think a lot of people. I don't know. This could be a bit of a sweeping statement, but I feel like a lot of people just. What are you laughing at, cunt?
Swerking salmon, did you say?
No.
Swooping statement, I got it.
That's what I.
He said, I pick up every time, Gun. He said a swerking statement. Go on,
Did I
keep
not
going.
say sweeping statement?
No, I know
I
what
thought
you're
you said
saying.
swooping, but anyway.
Swooping.
No, he said swerking.
All right. So look, this could be a bit of a swooping statement.
Every time he fucks up, I pull him up. Just so you can.
That's fair. It's good to have someone like that in your life. That
He's
is good to have someone like that in your life.
A swooping salmon, really. Yeah, but like I feel like a lot of people are chasing the wrong dream.
Yeah, 100%.
Again.
Chasing the Ron. Chasing the Ron.
Look,
How do you pick this up? I'm hearing everything slightly muffled, except I feel like I'm fucking screaming.
I'm so tired from this trip today. I'm picking up on everything because I can't let him get away because I'll just giggle because I'm just cooked.
So, swooping salmon to say the wrong thing.
Do you know what? Within all of those kind of mishaps, I think I got what you were saying.
Yeah.
But you're right.
I didn't say
Swooping
thing.
People
salmon
just
chase the wrong.
fucking
Swooping
don't
salmon
want to
chase the
do shit. Like people are doing the wrong thing. That's so true,
The
man.
Ron thing, mate.
The Ron thing. Ron.
Oh shit, that's embarrassing.
But it's true, and it comes down to that whole idea that we're taught we constantly need to be working towards something. So
Yeah, man, for
we
sure.
feel that we need to work towards something. So we just think, well, fuck, like what is a thing to do? And look, like I've been through it as well. Like, and I'm coming into this full kind of to bring it back to I guess CrossFit, which is how I initially met you boys. Like, I didn't make the games last year. I just honestly didn't care if I made the games last year, and I've realised that for me, the greatest thing that I can use my athletic career for is the thing that I got the most value out of as an athlete was not going to the CrossFit Games, was not actually getting like, hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram. It was not the kind of attention that I received for being an athlete that gave me the greatest satisfaction at all. It was when people reached out to me because of things that I was doing maybe in that mindset and mental health space. And they said, you know what? Thank you because of this, and this. And by no means do I believe that I'm inherently a great person in any capacity. However, like to think that I could have a positive impact on people's lives in something that is so much, in my opinion, so much more fucking important than being impressed by how quickly I can move a barbell. Like that gave me such a new perspective on my involvement in the sport and made me realize that maybe putting everything else on hold and sacrificing all these other areas of my life to try and make the CrossFit Games was in fact should not be my primary goal in life when I then potentially have the opportunity to invest in my studies, to go and work with groups, to do shit like this where I get to talk about this. Like I'm going with Are You OK to Western Australia in a little while to go and do a talk about mindset and identity on this sort of stuff. Like these are the things that I get value out of in life. And if going to the games allows me to get a broader audience to be able to preach that to, awesome. Then that's a good reason to do it in of itself. But yeah, like you kind of have to, I think, maybe go through a situation where you don't get something you think you really want, like you said with your AFL, to realize that, wow, there's got to be more thought that goes into whether you actually want what you think you want. And that's where self-awareness comes in. And like you said, like self-awareness is a fucking lost art. People don't have it.
I've got a question about Are You OK? Because I want to play devil's advocate with that. I feel, because I just don't know much about it, but like apart from the fact that it's raising awareness about mental health, what I think is automatically always a good thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like, and I don't know if this is the premise of Are You OK? But if I went up to someone and said, hey bro, like, are you okay?
Yeah.
And I know that's not specifically what it stands for, but like, do you feel like that would help?
Well, it's an interesting one. I think for me personally, you could almost say it saved my life when my friends came and asked me if I was all right. Because if no one had have said we'd fucking know something's going on, I was spiraling down a pretty dark kind of place. So for me, that's why I picked, I had a few different charities that my manager was kind of looking at maybe, because I wanted to, basically we did the athlete shirts last year for regionals, and we sell a bunch of shirts, and I said, look, I don't want the money, I don't need the money, it's just a really kind gesture. I just think though that I'm sick of kind of flogging these shirts every year. But I said, well, what about if can I just give all the cash to charity, to the guys from the wildlife who made it? And I said, that's totally fine. I thought, fuck, what charity am I doing? So I just messaged my agent. I said, can you pair us up with one that I can give this money to? And she's like, oh, they're actually interested in ambassadorship. And I said, I like the message to me really resonated. But I don't think it's necessarily like asking someone whether they're okay in the most literal sense of being like, you know, are you suffering from depression? Yes. Oh no, fuck, let's do something about it. I think
it's definitely the first step, you know. It has to be done. It's like, I mean, for example, like my housemate Davey was in his room he wasn't working and he was actually had the flu, but he was in his room all day, every day for like 7 or 8 days. And I was texting him like, hey bro, you're good, like what's going on? Because for me, it's like you with the Mind Mate, like your thing is like providing a platform for open discourse, right? For so many people, for me, for example, I called Beyond Blue when I was fucked because I didn't know what else to do, when I was at my worst point. And that was before I'd spoken to anyone else. Now I'll speak to anyone and everyone about it. I'm an open book. But that first point for me to actually get on the phone, because no one asked me, are you okay? Do you have, because I'm not the person that people would think that. Neither are any of us three sitting here. Yeah. But I was struggling. I picked up the phone and called Beyond Blue. And they were like, hey, you can get a mental health care plan, you can do this and that, whatever. But if I didn't do that, I would have just kept going down the path of, like you were talking about. Yeah. And I made that step for myself. But if someone had asked me, like, hey, man, you look like you're fucking struggling, it would have opened the door for me to have that conversation, which would have got me to the point I'm at now, where I can talk about anything and everything. You know, like.
So what made you feel comfortable picking the phone up?
I didn't feel comfortable picking the phone up.
So why'd you do it then?
Because I felt like I had to do something. You know, I got to the point, and what happened for me when I called Beyond Blue, I was so unhappy. I had so much anxiety. Probably going down depression path, whatever. I was driving back from the peninsula, like Mornington Peninsula where I grew up, so like an hour from the city. I was driving back on the East Link and there was an emergency lane. I saw the emergency lane 200 metres ahead and I'm like, fuck this. And I pulled over. Don't know if I started crying, but I pulled over. I was like having a panic attack. So I didn't know what to do with my life. What the fuck do I do? Yeah. And the first thing, which is obviously because they're good at the best marketing for a mental health organisation in Australia, was Beyond Blue came to mind. I'm like, fuck. And it took me ages to dial the number. I'm like looking at it, fuck, how do I fucking say this? Called the number, someone random that I've never even spoken to before in my life, never going to see in my life. Yeah. But it was a fucking nightmare for me. So I made that call. After that, I spoke to my mum, told my mum about it. She couldn't believe it, whatever. Told my brother. And then, you know, now, I'm an open book. But that first fucking step for me, and which is the first step for most people, especially blokes like us, especially athletic, you know, fucking hairy, fucking tattoos, like the typical guy that's not supposed to be anxious and worrying about this stuff, like my
stressing about like the little things.
We're the guys that
you just go, what the fuck, like
that need it the most, you know. So to your point with the are you okay, like I think it's
it's not my for me opinion. I think as well, I get what you're saying with the devil's advocate, like that's simple. The phrase "are you okay" is just a catchy little phrase. The way that I see it and the way that the company pitches is it's just being there for your friends, being there for your mates, being there for even a complete stranger in the streets. If you see like, you know, someone, you know, because think about it. If you walked past in the streets like a woman standing there crying, you know, what are you going to do? You're actually going to stop and say like, "You're all right, miss," or it's giving that awareness for people to actually look at a situation and go, okay, fuck, like this person looks like they could need help. Be willing to help others. Fuck.
Oh, you're kidding.
3 minutes. Really? Jesus Christ, that's flown.
That was very fast.
I know.
Yeah.
What's the time on the clock?
It's because we fucking all speak so fast.
I
it's
know.
like we had like 4 conversations.
Fucking anxious.
Let's just talk conversations in one. In one fucking normal length conversation.
Just a full dump of like... No, but I mean, that's obviously condoned.
We obviously, Khan, thanks for coming down and fucking saying good day. We're going to get back to Melbourne or we're going to miss this flight.
That's okay.
But, man, we need a...
When we get like a 5-hour session, man.
We're just starting to scratch the surface here.
Yeah, I know. We're just starting to get so good. Like deep. I'm going to have to go home and just talk. I'm going to go back to the gym. My dad and Kobe are going to see them go, guys, I need to just keep talking. I'm going to fucking lose my mind. Just blog the whole way back. Just this frenzied human walking down. So someone's probably going to ask me, am I okay when I'm walking down the streets? Because I'm so hopped up.
They're going to make me start.
Fuck. Yeah, we got to get out of Sydney.
Well, next time in Melbourne, we'll all just have a full day or like a good couple of hours. Yeah. We'll have a 6-pack of beer.
She's going to say, get like a fucking get a case. We'll sit the case in the middle.
We'll get drunk and we'll just have a sick chat.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it's always a pleasure, boys. I had a great time. Thanks for having me on again.
Sweet. Yeah, mate, thanks for coming. Short and sharp with Khan,
That's
but
an unfortunate
unfortunately we have to get back to Melbourne. It's my birthday today, Khan. I'm going to 2020 tonight, so we
Many
have to
happy
run back for
returns.
that.
Birthday time, huh?
So, so...
Go home, have a wank, go to bed.
I was going to say, straight to 2020 then Revolver, surely. Till 4 a.m. Till
Time
6 a.m. It's Monday. Just go, I had a terrible weekend. I had a great weekend, but I'm going to have a terrible next 2 weeks. We've all been there. 'Tis the season. Thanks, boys.
'Tis the season. That's a wrap.
Discovery Roger, go for deploy.